morphing, turning, growing, burning and knowing, spinning inexorably back to the beginning.
My name is Marina Abramovic. I want to welcome you to Cistern. In 7 Deaths, you hear the voice of Maria Callas singing 7 arias from 7 different operas. Maria Callas is present with her voice, and I am present with my body. In opera, as in life, death is stronger. Love becomes absolute. Pain becomes unbearable. It is not about dying once. It's about dying many, many times. You die many times in life, and yet you continue living. You give me your time, and I die for you 7 times.
Welcome back, everybody, to Beyond Survival, the place where we are talking to artists and thinkers and people who feel more at home in the slow lane than in fast culture. We are creating a space for people who are choosing depth over noise, care over speed, and what I would like to say, honesty over optimization and opportunism. Although this is a wonderful opportunity to sit at the table with none other than Stuart Reid, who I was saying a little bit earlier to Stuart, how am I going to introduce you? And it was a little bit mind-boggling because Stuart has done many things. I'll just introduce myself. I'm Geraldine, your host, Kelly, my co-host, Gizmo, our super host.
Is not playing today.
No, not playing the game today. Stephanie Davis in our background, speaking on Patreon. I hope people subscribing to this also go over to our Patreon account.
You can become a member of minimal monthly fee. I think it's about $5 or something. Isn't it, Steph?
Yeah, $4.50.
And that all goes towards the artists that we're trying to fund and help. Just so you know, the same like and subscribe that helps us get to monetization on YouTube, which means again we can help our artists.
So welcome, welcome, welcome.
And that's $5 Australian, so it's even less for Americans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good point. Good point.
Kelly, can you introduce the table?
No, I'm gonna say something that you didn't.
Okay.
By the way, today we do have balloons hanging down from the fan above us because the balloons say, "Happy birthday, Geraldine. Happy birthday, Geraldine. Happy birthday to you."
They had
Happy
to go
birthday,
there.
Geraldine.
Thank you.
And
Thank you,
today,
everyone.
I have to say that the cake here is a Victorian, old-fashioned Victorian sponge cake, which we do love. But the most important thing is that Stephanie made it today this time, and Geraldine made these chicken hoppers. Are they called?
The jalapeno chicken party poppers, which I thought was appropriate because it's a bit of a party day. Happy birthday to everyone out there if it's your birthday.
Yeah, it's your birthday. Happy birthday.
And so, yes, some party poppers.
Really, thank you.
Well, you're getting spoiled.
Yeah, no.
I'll have a copy though, Kelly. So
All right.
It's my birthday.
It's your birthday.
that's-
You've got to open the pressy. If Stuart's
I have
good enough
been
to pass it to you.
buying off some gifts.
And a card.
And I know that Kelly, Steph, this is from
Me.
just
me.
Kelly. Kelly's particularly thoughtful for a gift. I think I know what this is. I wonder if we'll get flagged for saying banging body. We're not sponsored by them. But
No, but we should be. We should be banging body.
I'm very excited. Thank you. That's beautiful. And I look forward to my banging body.
She pictures mine all the time. That's why I bought her one.
Thank you.
Cheers. Anyway, happy
Cheers.
birthday, darling.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Happy birthday.
So Stuart,
We're gonna have one of
let's
these.
come back to Stuart, our guest. How would you introduce yourself? Just to put you on the spot.
So
To our
I'm
guests.
a person who's had many careers in my life. I've had a lot of different opportunities to do a lot of really interesting things, most of which I won't get to talk about today. because I've got other things I want to talk about. But some of those include working in community radio, where I coordinated news and current affairs for a community station in Canberra. I then came back to Western Australia and got involved in oral history. So I've interviewed some fascinating people over the years as an oral history interviewer. Not an oral historian. I just want to make that very clear. I'm quite good at listening. I'm not so big on the research. And so I do journalistic type research for an oral history interview rather than historical research. It's gathering life stories mostly for use as historical resources. So historians then come to the material that I collect and they read the transcripts or they listen to the recordings and they draw their conclusions as professional historians from that raw material. So sometimes they're political. The first set of interviews I did were at the South Fremantle Power Station. So they were closing down the power station and they wanted to record stories of the workers. And there was great stories. There was a guy there, Roy Maiko, who came out on the boat. This is the 1950s. He came out on the boat from England with the turbines and he was an apprentice fitter.
Wow.
And he worked with those turbines, installed them, maintained them. His whole working life was in that power station. And he was retiring as foreman fitter.
Kind of like the £1,
£10 pom thing. I'm not a pom. I'm from Scotland, but we came out as £10 migrants as well.
Paid for your fare and
paid for the fare, and they're almost all audio recordings. So the first one was for the union movement and the employer. It was the State Electricity Commission commissioned that work, and we put on an exhibition. But my oral history career, I did one project for the National Library. That was really good. This was what it's like to be young and unemployed in the 80s. we interviewed. This is when we were doing it, right? So it was a community employment program. And back in the day, I'm in the generation who had everything laid out for them. Honestly, we had free education, free university. I actually got a scholarship to attend university. So I was getting the equivalent of unemployment benefits for being a university student. It was just fantastic. So I was unemployed, got on a community employment program gig to do interviewing for the National Library about what it's like to be young and unemployed in the 80s. So we interviewed all these young people.
Impossible. The 80s was all about crazy and money.
It was fun. But there was a lot of unemployment. And so we were interviewing young people, and we had an extraordinary range of young people with all kinds of experience. Some were new migrants. So I remember we interviewed a young Tamil refugee. There had been a lot of violence in Sri Lanka, and he'd got out, and we interviewed him, and he talked about that. That's in the National Library. I interviewed a young skinhead. And this guy was a bodybuilder. He was really big, and he had a violent streak, but he was anti-racist, which was really interesting because the stereotype was not what you'd expect. But he was scary. He said whenever he had an argument with his girlfriend, he needed to hit somebody, and he couldn't hit a woman. So he would go out and hit the first person on the street that he saw.
Because I think that you are someone who really immerses yourself, and that. And I know you've got some renown as a doodler, doodles, and as a wordsmith. And so I see you as a creative. Do you see yourself as a creative?
I don't see myself as an artist.
No.
Because for me, and this sort of will lead into what the stuff I want to talk about today, but an artist is someone who can visualize something and then recreate it in a medium, whether that's on paper or in any format. I have no visualizing capacity. I've always heard people say in my mind's eye or when I think about things, I don't have images in my head. So it's more, in terms of the visual art that I do, it's doodling. And rather than creating something that I intentionally do. Let me just show an example of what I'm talking about. So you bring it up on the screen. You don't need to show it there.
I'll pop it up.
Put my hat away.
Your signature hat.
My signature hat. So what?
Can I have a closer look?
Yes.
I'll take
So-
the screenshot.
so this-
We'll put it in the
This is one from a conference. So I'm sitting in the WACOS, WA Council of Social Service Conference.
Stuart, I'm going to interrupt you guys. What do you reckon?
It's doodling. These are the cryptic crosswords that I do, and I doodle
It's like
as I'm
your
doing it.
thinking process.
It's because while I'm thinking about something else, my hand is doing this.
Perfect.
And so my hand does a pattern which it repeats. It might be a scallop shape or a line or a circle. And I do those things. And then next to that, I do another one and another one.
I love it.
And because of
Sorry,
the way
this is art, Stuart.
because of the way your hand
Even the concept
moves and the ratios of elbow to hand to knuckle and so on, it forms, anything you do repeatedly forms a pattern that looks like something from nature. Will end up looking like a feather, or it'll end up looking like a wing, or like a seashell.
like staircase.
So people see things from nature. Now, I had no intention. An artist would have an intention
No, not always.
and would,
Not always.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
not.
in the process.
but
Yeah, it's so interesting.
It's
It's
very
about
much the
concept
process.
and process, and you've got that here.
Hmm.
I'm a conceptual artist, installation artist, so I'm right up my alley. This kind of this is a lot of artists do this. I guess in the world of New Age, they would call it automatic writing.
Mm.
We just see it as automatic creativity, automatic kind of drawing, really.
Yes.
So I think that's what doodling is. It's the unconscious coming through if you allow it.
Mm.
And I don't know how you feel about it, but that's what I feel like I'm looking at.
Mm.
And as far as I'm concerned, and I'm out there with I've been hanging out for the last 30 years with some fairly serious artists that I guess
Perhaps
community mind at the international level. That's what I would refer to. And I feel that what you're doing here fits right into that, because a lot of performance artists as well.
Yeah.
So they do, like the philosophy when we would turn up, even for Biennales and things, as a group of artists, would be turn up with your empty backpack. Don't come preconceived.
Yes.
This is right there with that. That's what this is. What you're doing, and the fact that you've even put it here and said it's conference. This conference I was doing that's recording and documenting history as well. So
Yeah.
it's
That's
beautiful.
the first time I've heard you talk about that sort of dimensions and the natural sort of sequence
Oh, it's
and what you're
beautiful,
doing.
Stuart.
Thank you. I'm glad you like it.
I really more than like it. Love it. That's the whole.
You might have
seriously.
I've got,
A Patreon.
Like,
A new-
you
a new
get teary
fan.
about Tennika's work. I'm getting teary about Stuart's work.
Yeah.
It's
so
very profound. I hope you understand how profound
We're
it is.
organised.
thank you. But you mentioned spontaneity. This is spontaneous.
Yes.
It's
That's-
not planned.
That's the
It
point.
is spontaneous. But
it's very
the
authentic.
same is true of my
And you feel
writing.
that.
So the writing that I do is,
Documentation of a time and place as well.
yeah,
Maybe
the kind of-
that's your heart documentation,
yeah.
because you're doing it verbally
Mm.
through your oral recordings.
Oh, yeah. I see that as a different thing. That is planned.
But even though it's planned, it's still coming under the banner of document.
And it's spontaneous to an extent, because no matter how much you've planned,
No, that's
you still go with where the conversation leads
That's it.
and you follow that.
Yeah.
I think one of my most profound moments in oral history was when I was doing another project for the National Library about Australia's response to HIV and AIDS. And I wanted to interview a professor of immunology. And he said, before you interview me, you must interview this other guy who came out from England when we first got our MRI machine. I think it was an MRI machine or something like some new technology they had. Anyway, and he was the one who identified in the cells of the patients that were coming in, he identified what he saw as a retrovirus. And so this was a very early recognition of what was the problem. So I interviewed him. And in the course of the interview, we got to a moment where I asked him a question and he stopped and he said, how did you know to ask that? And I didn't, but I was in the moment.
Yeah.
I was in the moment.
Yes,
I was
yes.
with him as he was telling his story. I just got there with him at that time. And I thought, what? And so, yeah. Anyway,
Would you say that
was the story.
tapping into that kind of unconscious, into
Yes.
sort of stuff? Yeah.
You get on a, this is where we get a bit
No,
woozy,
we're
a bit woo-woo, yeah.
We're all woo-woo
Is it okay?
here.
Is it okay to go a bit woo?
Literally, our first episode was talking about, or the second episode, what is left of mind centre. What happens when you shift into that creative space? What does the mind do? Where does it go? How does that happen?
Yeah.
We're all excited for woo woo.
Yeah, we love it.
Yeah. Well, I'm an old cynic. I'm not a real woo-woo person, but that was a woo-woo moment for me.
Yeah. But I think
It's
it's
magic, isn't it? Like,
Yeah,
you can't
it's science.
100%.
That's all it's science. Even though we can attach spirituality
Magic
to
and
it,
science.
it is, to me, it's pragmatic spirituality, which includes the voice of science. That's the way we can call it woo-woo, but we're just joking around. But seriously, it is to
There
me
is a
that
science
kind of thing.
behind
There is a
woo-woo,
science
of
that we
course,
don't understand. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. I've got a question for you. So, with television, you have viewers. Radio, you have listeners. Sort of hybrid podcast.
big.
So I'm still wondering if
It is an interesting space, 100%, and it's new to us as well. I know that podcasting has been happening for nearly 20 years now, but I didn't personally watch podcasts. I haven't watched network TV or normal TV for 30 years. But then when I got grounded from losing mobility, and I had 5 years where my two choices were pretty much housebound, so pretty much either writing, reading, and needed something to watch.
my first experience of an online outlet for my work was with MySpace. Do you remember MySpace back in the day? So I was posting my written work. So these were what I call dashed off ditties. And so I'd get someone to give me a title, and then I would write an instant piece, usually at music jam sessions. So the musicians are all playing. I don't play any instruments myself, and I can't sing for nuts. But I'd get them to give me a title, and I'd write it down, and then they would keep playing, and I would get on the mic and recite what I'd written.
Lovely.
And so
Like
I ended up
slam.
with poetry slam, yes, kind of.
Yes.
And I had quite a lot of these. So I decided I'm going to put them on MySpace. So I did one a day for 100 days
Wow, that's
of
amazing.
dashed off ditties on MySpace. And there
really
was
honed
some.
your craft.
I honed my craft, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. But they were also spontaneous. You were right to get that about me. I don't have a lot of really in-depth thought through writing that I've done. I've done a couple of things. I did a playwriting workshop with John Aiken back in the day, and I wrote a play, a short 15-minute play
You've got a new friend
that I was really excited about. And then I ended up in hospital, and so when the actors did the play reading of it, I was in hospital. I missed it. I did more oral history interviewing, again, contract work, bit of this, bit of that. Never really had a full-time job until I was into my 40s.
I've always
Yeah.
been a sole trader, as they call it.
Sole trader, yeah. My first real job was coordinator of the oral history unit at the Batty Library, the state library
that
here.
would have been interesting.
And it was great. I loved it. And I was national president of the Oral History Association. So my whole career really was oral history.
Beautiful.
I'd done some major parliamentary interviews. I interviewed all kinds of people. Lang Hancock I interviewed. 2 years at the Batty. I had a 2-year contract with a 3-year option. And the decision was made that they didn't have enough money to continue the job. I was unemployed again. Late 90s. And it was a terrible shame because we had the millennium coming up, the turn of the centenary of Federation, all this focus on history. And the federal government were just ready to pour bucket loads of money into it. And I had all kinds of ideas for preservation of the collection, digitization, very early digitization. And it all got kibosh. But I saw an ad in the paper for a policy advisor, speechwriter for Dimar Getz in the Senate, the Greens senator.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, yeah, I'll apply for that. And I did. I had got an interview. I didn't know Dee from a bar of soap, never met her. Never been a member of, I am not now, nor have I ever been a member of any political party. Okay, just want to make that completely clear. But
Bipartisan.
Yeah.
So I did the interview. And it all went well, except Dee asked me, because she knew that one of my passions was against uranium mining. And she said, what would you do if you got offered a deal where they would make a concession on the uranium mining in return for something else? And I said, that would be a difficult one. I think in the end, I wouldn't do it because it would backfire on you in the long term.
Always.
Anyway, that was totally the wrong answer. The right answer was, we don't do deals.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. We don't do deals.
But it was you talk about late 90s, are you? In this time?
Yes.
It
So
was a very
it was
transactional period.
Oh, it was. John Howard was the prime minister. Dee was in a kind of. There was only Dimar Getz and Bob Brown for the Greens, but the two independent senators, Brian Harradine and Colston, and so there was actually one time when I got the job because they came. Let's go back to that. I got the job because they came downstairs after the interview, and Carol said, "Get him."
He's that one little faux pas.
Yeah.
Still have one of these.
Get him. So anyway, we did have one good win that I can point to. I was there for 8 months. It was the end of her term in Parliament. She'd already lost the election, but in the Senate you go through to the end of June. And it was the sale of Telstra, the GST. I worked on nuclear safety legislation. I worked on Aboriginal heritage legislation and some really interesting stuff. The state government. And I was in the state government in policy roles then for 13 years. So fairly senior, just one step down from the corporate executive level. So director level.
You've lived a very interesting life already. Even heard 10% of it yet.
I had the job there as Director of Children, Youth and Families. And it was all the positive sides of the youth agenda. So it was youth mentoring, a middle years strategy because we had an early years initiative. And then we brought in this policy work. We said, the next lot of policy work that needs to be done is around the middle years. And we did that. Youth mentoring was a big project to develop a framework to support youth mentoring, and we developed some fantastic resources, mentoring works resources that mentoring agencies could use to help them manage high quality programs. That all came to a grinding halt as well when they merged the department with local government.
Happens a lot, doesn't it?
It was terrible. And I went into a real funk then. They were about to abolish all the level 8 positions, which included my position. But then they offered these great redundancy packages. And I took one of those and got out. And because I was actually quite worried about my mental health at that stage. I was thinking dark thoughts. It was not good. I was in a bad state. I was concerned about my memory. What did I do yesterday? Did I write that memo or not?
You were under a lot of stress.
It became very difficult.
It was the stress that was causing it?
It was, but I didn't know, and I was already not a young man by that stage. And the doctor referred me for a memory clinic assessment. So I went to the memory clinic, and they give you this great long memory thing to do. And I came out of it in the normal range, but they said, look, with your professional background, you should really be up here, but you're down here. But we think it's probably more to do with depression. And so anyway, I took the redundancy, life blossomed, became great. And a year later, I got a call back from the memory clinic saying, you're due for a refresher test, a follow-up test. So I went back, did the test. Oh, you're in the superior level now. So my memory's up here at the superior level. So it just goes to show how much of an effect even moderate depression can have on your capacity to function.
100%.
Really did highlight for me how that link between thinking and feeling, and how if you're not feeling well, you don't think well.
As well.
And I think we're only more recently really understanding that mind-body connection, where that, I don't know, science is only catching up in the last 20 years.
Yeah,
certainly here.
In more older cultures like India with Ayurvedic medicine, they've been onto that since day one, sort of 5,000 years old. Yeah. But when we lost it through doing allopathic medicine, and now I think we're finding our way back to a balance, hopefully.
Yeah.
Would be nice, wouldn't it?
So post-government work, I contract work as a consultant. I went to work for WACOS, the WA Council of Social Service, for 3.5 years, managing their sector support. So the support they provide to community organisations.
Mostly recording.
I'm currently interviewing a former premier. He's given me permission to say that I'm interviewing him, and even to ask people if they have questions that they would like. So I'm going to be a bit bold here and ask if you've got any questions that you've always wanted to ask Richard Court. So I did have something I wanted to talk about, which was that thinking about thinking. You know, and now I've forgotten what it was I wanted to say. So, you know, about thinking, we hear a lot these days about neurodivergence. And unfortunately, the term neurodivergent is often used in a kind of pejorative way when someone's behavior is unacceptable in some way, or unacceptable to some people, or just different,
seen as different
from others. But I think it's important to see neurodivergency as being universal. We are all neurodivergent in the sense that we are all different. We all think differently from one another. We have no way of knowing how other people think. And in fact, we have no way really of knowing how we think ourselves. If I think about how I'm thinking, I don't know what I think about something until I hear myself say it. But I find that I will find myself saying things and then realize, I didn't know I thought that.
Can I come back to that? Because I love the practice, and I love reading, and I love immersing myself in mindfulness, and there's a big concept. And one of the exercises, there's a million, there's almost probably as many as there are humans on this planet, is an exercise where you think about a pain that's in your body. And when you focus on that pain, it quite often goes away. Have you had that experience?
Yeah, it's very much part of the Vipassana technique, which is the very first meditation that I learned. And in Vipassana technique, they teach you to focus on the breath here. And then I would do like a 10-day noble silence retreat, like probably every couple of years. And in that practice, what happens is when sitting for such a long time, like sometimes it can be 10 hours in a day, all your aches and pains come up physically, never mind about the emotional stuff that travels. And what that particular type of meditation teaches you is, and I'm sure many of you out there know the Vipassana technique, is to then focus on that pain, but don't buy into it. You sit in observation of it. And by sitting in observation of it, it eventually dissipates. And for me, I had lots of post-car accident, serious, ferocious kind of nerve pain, which would be triggered often by being sedentary or sitting in the one position for too long. So I failed the first attempt. I was there for 5 days, and they said, no one leaves after 5 days. And I said, I'm out of here. This is too much for me. And then I went to India instead. And when I went to India and I did it there, for some reason I could focus and work my way through it. So that to me is what you're talking about.
Well, I'm probably talking about awareness, but maybe, and that's coming back to thinking, there's that process of awareness and thought. So you can be in the moment of thinking, but then there's that objectivity too, and that's where I don't know if that's where you're leading us, or I don't know whether I just jumped in with that sort of idea of
I want to ask you if it works for emotional pain as well. Like, does it work for
it's
psychological pain?
Yeah, over the course of maybe 12 years, I was doing a retreat. I mean, you continue to do daily practice in between, which helps when you get to. But I found like you needed that recharge every couple of years. I'd need that recharge to clean up again. Definitely look, everyone's different, but for me, the physical pain was most present first, and that probably after about 4 years, that had dissipated a lot, and then that's when the emotional and mental stuff came up, and then I had to do my business with that as well.
Yeah,
it works on all three elements. And I think that the final kind of, I ended up at a place that a teacher by the name of Ramana Maharshi, he died in the 1950s, but his family still runs. It's a tiny ashram at the bottom of a mountain. And the guy running it at that time, he's not there anymore, I think he passed. He was very invested in helping people with this particular practice, finding themselves. And the question that he posed, Ramana Maharshi posed, is, who am I? If you can ask who you are and answer that question, you're there. You've remembered who you are. But within that process, his mantra was, you're not the body, you're not the mind. I am not the body, I am not the mind. I am that I am, which is an old Sanskrit. And it is about moving beyond and understanding that our emotions and thoughts are very little to do with who we are in our pure essence.
So
Brought it into
the question
space,
of who am I've done talking about who I've been, you know, but who am I? I don't know.
Yeah.
And when I think about
we're remembering.
When I think about who I am, I think in words. I think in conversations. I have conversations going on in my mind all the time. It's my way of thinking. I don't think in pictures or visual images. If I try to remember something, I can remember the story of it. Words are very important to me, is what I'm saying.
And words are powerful.
Maybe I should give you some examples of the dashed off ditties. Would you like that?
Yeah, please.
Okay, some of them are about words. This is one that do you want to
watch?
Okay. Now this
We're
is
good with words,
right.
Stuart.
Right, where the truth lies.
Okay.
Where the truth lies. Where the truth lies. Over the rainbow, far away, in a land where time slows to a long, cool burn, and light is a gentle glow, there lives, if that's the word, one whose being is, but is not. Was, but never was, and will be only maybe. For such a one there is naught that is known, yet much, indeed all, that is possible. This is the way of the one who is there or is not, was there or never was, will be, maybe. This is the one you seek when you go beyond and wonder more, the one you need when you lose your way and wander more, the one you want when you're on your own and won't reach out. This is the spectre of being and nothingness, fulfillment and emptiness, the answer without a question, elusiveness captured yet free, there and not there in the palm of your hand or the blink of an eye, coming and going, seen and unseen, known yet not known. Far away in a land over the rainbow where you'll never be unless you go there with me. I've been there before and I'll go there again. Not now, not soon, but one day far away when the time is right and the cool, clear light shows the way, over the rainbow to the land far away, the land of dreams where nothing is real, the land where the truth lies.
Very well done.
But total word. It's complete meaningless garbage.
You know what? I would put that in the genre of a little bit data.
Yes, it is.
Because I think removing what we think is first is a healthy thing to do for everybody. It's part of what we were just talking about, who am I and the Vipassana technique.
Yeah.
Because the other side of that philosophy is we think this is real, this is physical, so therefore it's real. I think we're past. I think most people are past what I can't see is not real. I think most people understand now you don't see air, but it's real.
Yeah.
And in that kind of vein, there's many different sadhus and holy men and practitioners in India think in these terms that actually this is the illusion, guys. What you think is real is the illusion.
Our experiences just lately of the reality of that illusion, that it is an illusion, hitting me in a really visceral way, where my whole body feels nothing is real. It passes very quickly. It's a momentary thing, but it's happened 2 or 3 times in the last few weeks.
Yes.
26 is a big year for everyone to feel things. And if you look at all the old Sanskrits and stuff like that, they talk about this time, that this change that we are experiencing on the planet, they saw it coming long before, obviously. And it's actually written in the original monks 5,000 years ago that wrote that on the palm leaves and stuff like that. It's recorded.
Many ancients.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only familiar. I can't speak of others, children, because I'm more familiar with the Ayurvedic kind of and Sanskrit system. But they talk about that there's not been this planetary alignment for 20,000 years. And so it's a really important time about the collapsing of the time-space continuum is the words that they use. And I feel like everybody has a story to tell. Everyone, certainly in the last couple of years that I've spoken to, can speak into what you just spoke into. But I'm not sure what this is, but I had this profound visceral experience. And I do believe it's that time-space continuum collapsing, because that's the illusion. If we think of it in pragmatic terms, time was created by man, really.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was just the way that...
Time is a sociological construct. If you look at different cultures around the world, they view time very differently.
Yes.
One of the American researchers who came to see us at the library when I was doing oral history had been doing work with American Indians, Native Americans, and looking at their use of words for time. And he divided the language, words, into what he called patterned cyclical time, so things that refer to seasons or all the time, and linear time, which refer to before, after, during, dates, etc. And he was taking oral history transcripts, because there's a lot of words in an oral history transcript, and doing an analysis of them to see which ones. When you looked at men's interviews, much more linear than women's. Okay. Maybe to be expected, I don't know.
Yep, I think so.
But if you looked at Indigenous cultures versus Western cultures, much more even than the difference between men and women.
Yes.
To an almost like, oh, wow. And so he wanted access to the Aboriginal interviews that we had in the library.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing such an important part at the moment in this time from the history. I don't know whether you were aware that maybe, I don't know, it was a couple of years ago maybe, that the very first time that the many different Indigenous tribes invited white people to more or less meditate with them. And they were doing this when they shut down Ayers Rock for a little while, Uluru for a little while. Before they reopened it, they did this meditation where the women were on one side and men were on the other side, and they did their ceremony. And when I spoke to this elder about it, she said, no, we've been planning this for 9 years, Kelly. We were expecting this time. We understood what was happening to the planet. And this is us inviting you guys in to stay within your homes. Don't come to the rock. Stay within your homes and join us at the same time and meditate with us, because this is a fight for humanity. It was one of those profound moments for me, that including the meditation itself, where I really got it. And like, this is going back 2 or 3 years ago. It really, in that moment, it hit me. Oh my God, you're so right. That is what's happening. This is what we're all fighting for. Who do we want to be as a race of beings as we move forward? Do we still want to be warring and doing all those heinous things that we're capable of, or do we want to be better? Do we want to? And that's what their hope and their knowing is, to evolve beyond that. And I don't know why we don't listen to them more, because they're 65,000 years old. That's the oldest Australian Indigenous and the oldest civilization on the planet at the moment. Look at this.
We're in unison.
The times
totally
I've come
synchronised.
closest to experiencing it recently has been in work I've been doing with national parks. So this is an extension of the governance training for boards and committees that I was talking about. But these are joint management bodies for national parks. So they're partnerships between the Indigenous traditional owners and the park staff. And they meet together maybe 3 or 4 times a year to make strategic decisions about the park. And in line with the park plan and based on Indigenous land use agreements that they've made between government and the traditional owners. Coming back to that thing about time, and there's one of my dashed off ditties. Someone gave me a title, Inexorably Back to the Beginning was the title I was given. And this is it as it was written. I just wrote this straight down on the page.
Please do. Yeah, another one.
So it goes, inexorably back to the beginning. There's a moment in time we know as the start of life as we know it, the whole and the part. Some call it creation, some call it Big Bang. Whatever we call it, it's set all in motion, turning and growing, burning and knowing, stars and planets and moons all spinning, atoms and photons and neutrons all spinning too, round and round, on and on, time after time. From then until now, from now until then, past into future, time without end. Round and round, again and again, ever expanding, spiraling outwards, onwards, ever onwards, backwards and forwards, but all the time cycling, round and around, moving, turning, growing, burning and knowing, spinning, inexorably back to the beginning.
Love it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Full circle for sure.
Thank you for taking us on that journey.
Yeah, you're welcome. Back to the beginning.
And this is Stuart Reid, our guest today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
We haven't had cake yet.
We'll get to cake.
We've got to get to cake, but I think Stuart's got another one there.
This one was about thinking, and
Oh, yes, please, because that's where you started.
it's called Bamboozled in the end.
Yes, good. Love
But we start out knowing nothing, desperate to learn and know. And knowledge takes over, and learning is lost in the marshes and swamps and quicksands and deserts of the mind at school. Awareness takes over later, and knowledge takes its place as one among equals, with judgment and ethics and science and evidence and respect and responsibility. Then confusion sets in. Bamboozlement sets in, leaving us bamboozled in the end.
Love it.
I think I might be heading there sooner than I think.
Or maybe we're all heading there a little bit.
And
No? It's like a sign graph.
As you look at this painting in the background here, Stuart.
Oh yes.
You have to look from a
To
distance
see.
to find in amongst what just looks like abstract.
Yes.
You can see the platypus. You
I can see.
the
I can see this little animal here.
Yeah.
Yes.
But when you first look, it just looks. Oh, okay. We've moved on now.
I can see horses in that one.
Yeah. This looks more like your sort of style of doodling.
No, I don't
actually.
know.
It does,
You know,
doesn't
but
it?
pushing
Yes.
with charcoal on a
The early
larger
ones.
scale.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget the name of this artist. He was known for doing his horses, wasn't he?
Italian? Was it a futurist?
No, he was this artist that was well known. It's all in the art books when you go through art school. You've got a lot of his paintings. This is a chalk and white paint sort of version, but charcoal. I'm going to ask the question again because I said to you, what an amazing life that you have lived. But to me, it's the way everybody should live. It's spectacular. You've gone by essentially you're setting your pants and you've gone with the flow. And I often talk about, as an artist, stay in the flow. Sit.
Yeah.
Gizmo? Sit. Good boy. Well done, darling. And you said, I wish I could see it that way. What did you mean by that? for your life?
I can tell stories about my life that make it sound great. And I've lived it, so I know the truth.
And what is the truth for you through your eyes? Through your heart, more important.
There have been lots of good things. The family is wonderful. My girlfriend and I have been together for 52 years.
Are you not married?
No.
After 52 years, I love it!
No. That's the secret. This is
It's horrible that you call her your girlfriend.
she's my partner,
Yeah.
my lover.
You call her your girlfriend, and I think that's
I think it's wonderful. I think that you
Always
didn't
thought she was
prescribe
your wife.
to this thing,
No.
this institution called marriage. That
No,
you didn't need to do. I
because-
think it's lovely.
Because then she would be my wife.
That's
And
it.
who wants a wife? I mean, really,
You want a partner in
my dad had
life.
a wife, and that was my mother.
Yeah.
You know?
You want someone not that can't happen in marriages, of course it can, but it is
Yeah.
if you get stuck in the language and you get stuck in the institution of marriage, I think that's problematic.
I think some people give up trying.
Yeah.
Once they're
that's true.
married, that's it. They've got there.
Oh, that's it. I hadn't thought of it
And
that way. Yeah, it's
And
true.
Some do.
whereas
Gives them permission
some
in a
do.
weird way. Oh, I've made it now.
Yeah,
I've got it locked in.
Yeah.
And so I can say and do whatever I like. But guess what?
Well,
You
and
can't.
some people use it to get away with bad behaviour because
Yeah.
of the safety of marriage.
Yeah.
where was I going? I was saying, yeah. So the
Self-perception
family's
is how you-
great. My kids have done well in life. The grandkids are doing well. This 21-year-old grandson is studying engineering, software engineering at university. The other kids, one's just started high school, the other two are still in primary school. But they're all lovely kids. They're great. So that's all wonderful. I've got career highlights that I can talk about, like the work. I'm really proud of that work with the joint management bodies for national parks. I could talk all day about examples of things that have happened there. But 13 years in senior policy roles in the state government, I have to be honest about that and say it didn't live up to my expectations for policy. Like, my idea of policy work is that it's in advance of the work that then gets endorsed and funded and implemented. And for the most part, it got about as far as endorsement, if you were lucky. Resourced, unlikely. Implemented, almost never.
So do you feel that sometimes when you're doing the policy writing stuff and looking into and the beginning process, that by the time you get to the part where you're ready to present, that the temperature has already changed?
Yes.
And you've got to pivot and move again?
Yes.
So how does
an
that get
example,
solved, something
well,
like
often it doesn't. An example,
Is there a better
an
system?
example was the crime prevention strategy that was developed under the Gallup government. So it was 5 parts to this strategy. So a very good strategy and some implementation that was working quite effectively. We had some assessment done of what we called the Burglar Beware campaign. When Gallup resigned and Alan Carpenter took over, he dismantled Office of Crime Prevention in Premier and Cabinet. So crime prevention, that's police business.
Wow.
Oh.
And off it went to police.
And it has to be
And-
a community approach, doesn't it?
Well, I
Just
went to-
be a silo on its own over here.
I went to the boss of the department, Premier, to the Director General of the department. I said, I can't go to police. I said, it's just not me. And he said, yeah, I wouldn't go either.
No.
He said, there's always work for good policy officers. We'll find you something else. And he did. I've had some two years of really interesting projects there, but not in a coordinated fashion. And the same thing happened with sustainability, which was a whole of government sustainability strategy. Everything had to be sustainable. Ways of working were sustainable, not just kind of put it in an environment where it got parked as an office within the Department of the Environment.
This is news to me.
And it just
I didn't
disappeared.
I didn't see Alan Carpenter as a compartmentalising.
Oh, thing was, he'd been the Minister for Education, and Premier and Cabinet were telling education to get their act together.
That was his rationale.
That was his rationale for it.
How in practice.
And it was
worked
totally,
is another thing.
and also he also had his main advisor was Ria Safiotti, who'd come from Premier and Cabinet, and she and the director policy clashed badly. She closed down all the access, so people couldn't get access to the premier. And then, of course, you get a change of government comes in.
Yeah.
What always happens with a change of government is that, we can't use those resources because that's got the previous minister's face on it. Or it's the forward is signed by somebody else.
Gosh.
And so
when are we going to do it different, Stuart?
We must do it different. We must.
There has to be, especially with what we're seeing going on with geopolitics at the moment, it's so tumultuous. And coming out of this, I hope that we can find a new way of governing worldwide. It's not just systemic here, it's in every country, and particularly democratic countries, you see it. Can you speak into that a little bit?
Yes.
Do you have any ideas about how a new governing system would look like?
I think the kind of change that we will need to see is the kind of change we saw after the Second World War.
Okay.
So we had Hitler doing appalling things, but essentially populist stuff.
Yes.
Scapegoating,
Yes.
identifying who the enemy was, and in his case, locking them up and exterminating them. And the enemies were Jews. So do we have a similar scenario now? I'm not sure.
I think what's happening in
what will
America
happen?
is that
What will have to happen is things will get worse, and then there comes a point where we go, oh my God, how did we let that happen? Because that's what happened after this. And then the outcome of that was the establishment of the United Nations, the World Bank, all of these international human rights commitments, covenants, agreements, nuclear proliferation controls, agreements, so on. So a lot of international stuff. And I think we will need to have that triggered again. But it won't happen until people are so shocked by...
I think we're there. I think we're getting there.
No, we've got a long way to go.
You don't think so? Not enough people engaged?
No, it's not that. It's just that they're still getting away with...
100%.
With the lies and the attack on institutions. Like in America, for example, to attack the Supreme Court, to demonize your legitimate opposition. So whether that's Democrats or Republicans, they're demonizing one another.
Like choosing the lesser of the two evils all the time.
Yeah, there's that. But in Australia, we've managed to avoid that. We've maintained a relatively civil engagement between government and opposition. It's starting to fray at the moment, just in the last, with the overthrow of Susan Ley and the Liberals. That's a worrying development.
Yeah.
Because we're starting to hear words like bad people. Well, this is not an appropriate kind of approach to anything to do with understanding what's going on in the world, to talk about these people being bad people. No, they're not bad people. They're trying their best. They might have got it wrong. You might think they've got it wrong. Who knows whether they've got it wrong or not? But in a democracy, we all get to vote on which way we want it to go. But this bad people stuff.
The shaming, we talk about it often, don't we, Jolene, about shaming and blaming is a pointless exercise. It just doesn't help.
No.
But so how do we, from your perspective, because you've had this experience in your life, with all of that stuff that's happening at the moment, I'm not very happy with the Labor. I'm very reluctant to vote for them next time around because of some of the things they got the landslide kind of victory because people didn't want what was happening in America to come here. That was the driving force behind it. But it feels like there has been infiltration, especially with Peter Thiel and him getting his New Zealand citizenship and being in charge of all our tech in AUKUS and Five Eyes and all that sort of stuff. But there's this crazy kind of... It feels like there's a handful of people around the world that have divided the world into territories of 4 territories or something. So how, in Australia, walking forward and looking for new style of governance, what can we do, we the people do, to make the situation, to be better? I don't know how else to phrase it.
I think we need to focus on being better ourselves, each individual being kinder to one another and love your enemies.
Yes.
It's not, you're never going to win, quote unquote.
No, that's the problem.
By defeating your enemy, because all that's going to do is just make your enemy
Yeah.
your enemy forever.
That's it.
We have to find ways of talking across the differences that we have and finding the common ground. And for me, one of the areas where we're most likely to find common ground, I think, is around climate change and climate action. And it needs much stronger leadership from government,
Yeah, absolutely.
but it also needs pressure on the opposition to come to the party and understand that this is an urgent problem. If we were to get cohesive response just on that, I think Australia would have enough common ground for us to resolve those other differences that we've got. But so long as something as major as that remains division between government and opposition, everything else becomes culture wars and other kinds of division, and the divisiveness just continues to split and splinter. That, for me, is the one where there is potential. There are enough liberals who understand that climate change is a man-made problem that needs man-made solutions.
Yeah.
And I'm using man in...
I was Liberal before I was Labor, so I grew up in a Liberal family.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying, yeah.
The Liberals are taking the wrong message from the rise of One Nation. They're saying they're competing with us for those right-wing votes. We need to get more right-wing to win those votes back. That's nonsense.
Yeah, it is nonsense.
That is nonsense. So what if the Liberals really wanted to be relevant, they would go and campaign on climate change as an urgent priority and win back those teal seats from Liberals who vote teal because of that one issue that is...
Your cup's just teetering on the edge there.
Yes. So I think you asked me what we could do in Australia.
Yeah.
I think try to influence the Liberal Party to turn away from its ideological right-wing culture wars stuff that they're getting fed by the Australian newspaper and the West
And
too.
algorithms.
And
Sorry to say.
algorithms, of course, but
It goes right into their feed,
algorithms
so.
are still only amplifying what's already there. They're not creating anything new.
Yeah.
And like you've shown with this podcast, once you've got an idea out there that people are attracted to, it gains its own momentum.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. Is we need people putting
That's the
ideas
capitalism.
out there that are going to gain momentum.
Yeah.
And I think the other area that we need to get some consensus or compromise and some bold thinking around is to do with tax. But I think there does need to be some pretty serious redistribution. I think raising the tax threshold is important. A lot of people are paying tax
That
who
seems to
just
be a
haven't
common
got enough,
thread around the world.
haven't even got enough money to live on, never mind pay tax.
That seems to be quite a common thread at the moment around the world with different Western and democratic countries.
But you can only fund that loss of income if you tax people at the top end.
Yeah.
But that's a no-brainer. I mean, of course we...
You would think it would be a no-brainer, Stuart,
And-
but obviously it's not.
Yeah.
Somehow they're still managing to avoid it, and they have done for 40 years.
Yes.
So how do we change that? How do we change that?
I think we need to be bolder around the language we use in relation to things like the super profits taxes on mining. It's a windfall for a mining company that's making a reasonable profit at the price of iron ore or the price of gold today. That costs them the same to produce it today, and then the price of iron ore goes up through the roof,
But we don't.
and we just get the same percentage of that.
That we did in the 1970s, apparently. Similar.
These are Australian resources. They don't belong to the mining company. The mining company has a license from the Australian
That's it.
government to mine that. So it's up to the Australian
And it belongs to the
population.
people at the end of the day.
It belongs to the people. And so the royalties should reflect that. And so should the tax regime. And I don't think it does at the moment.
No.
Now, when I say these are bold things, it's a bit like that Yes Minister, it's a very brave minister. But we do need governments to be brave. I've been reading the biography of Whitlam at the moment. And
It's like 50 years, isn't it now?
yeah,
Since he was
so
ousted.
it's 72, 75. And the boldness with which they made enormous changes some of which were broadly supported, some of which had been overdue and were supported.
But I do agree with you, and it's part of my philosophy, and I think yours as well, and we talk about it often, that first you have to do the individual kind of evolution on things, and then automatically your collective consciousness changes, right?
Yeah. A lot of people I know who share my general political orientation have no patience for anyone else's view at all. And that is counterproductive.
Yeah, 100%.
It really is. It's one of the reasons why the Democrats in America have done so badly. It's because they
one-eyed.
They talk down to people.
It brings me back to thinking.
Yes.
And for me, the left think that they're right and know that the right are wrong. The right know that they're right and think that the others are wrong.
That's very clever. That's a really good way of describing it, Stuart.
Listen to George.
I thought we were going to talk politics today.
What have we got onto politics for?
Oh no!
I wanted to talk about
We
thinking.
might have to divide this into 2 episodes.
We'll have to come back for
Can
cake.
I say I had a topic in mind?
About the crazy stuff.
I had a topic in mind that I wanted to talk about today,
Yes.
and we actually didn't get there.
Okay.
I said that I wanted to talk about thinking,
Yes.
thinking about thinking.
Do we do a lot of thinking?
We did do that. But the thing that I've been thinking about more than anything is death.
Yes. Oh.
And that's where I was going to go today.
Let's
to
have
talk
that
about
conversation.
death.
We can make 2 episodes out of this. Easy.
Well, it is 5
Oh,
o'clock.
it's
just so
5
you know,
o'clock.
as well.
We could have another conversation
Another day.
another day.
Come back. Come back. Because I've had 3 near-death experiences, so I can talk a little bit into that one. So I'm intrigued. And let's do that.
Well, I've also been saying that
This is Stuart sitting there. You're stewing.
we're getting to the cake.
I just wondering if you've started your cake yet. You know?
And I'm like sitting there going, come on, ladies.
Yeah, let's do the cake.
All right. Because Joan and I can go on forever. We can speak for days
If you want to have
without a breath
here, maybe.
about these
I'm having
issues.
You 2 have just gone on another one.
We have many philosophical
started
questions, not a lot of answers yet.
All right.
So forgive us if we
Well,
get carried away.
Thank you very much for the invitation to come along and join you at the table today. I've
Oh my
really
God,
enjoyed it. It's been terrific.
So amazing. I loved it. I'm
Yeah,
so
thank you.
pleased to have met you.
It's nice
I'm
to meet
looking
you
forward
too.
to further
Yeah.
talking with you.
I've got some more poems on the subject
Good.
for us when we come back next time.
Oh, brilliant.
Beautiful. Perfect.
Or
Love
we could
it.
even give you a topic, and you could we could give you.
Oh, absolutely.
There's that
Put me
opportunity.
to the test. Put my dashed off ditties to the test. Give me a topic and I will
I want,
write it
I want the
down
next one
straight away.
to. I think death's a good one to start with.
Oh,
That's one of my
Thinking
stories
about
and
death.
favourite stories from Women Who Run with the Wolves that I've been working on as an artist. I worked on for about 10 years. It's called The Skeleton Woman. It's all about the death life cycle. Yeah.
Very good.
okay. Cake.
Okay,
It's nearly dinner time,
Georgie.
but let's have some cake.
Thank you very much.
Steph.
You were the perfect person to have the long conversation with,
Thank you.
and
Yeah,
talk about.
that's who we are.
It took me about 2/3 of the time just to do my introduction to who I am. Then we got to the point about I don't actually know who I am. You do.
And that sort of reflective moment, basically.
Not
Have
bad.
you still got your
Wow.
fork there?
Mm.
Rather,
Oh my goodness.
Is it nice?
Yes,
Are you
I just taste the cream,
really good stuff.
and the cream tastes fantastic.
Yep.
Love.
Mm,
Oh my
delicious.
goodness.
And
This
Then
is
you have-
delicious.
It really is.
Thank you.
Really lovely.
And I like the old-fashioned jam and cream.
that's what I was
Takes
saying.
me back
It's
to
simple
childhood.
but delicious. Good
So
job,
thank you to
Stephanie.
everyone for joining us. This is Beyond
Almost as
Survival.
good as my auntie Pat's.
Shall I ask the question?
Yes, go on. Ask this question. Ask the final question.
I have got one last question for Stuart that I want to kind of set up a tradition, asking people how they stay grounded, how they keep it real in their own lives, what sort of practices or what sort of rituals or what keeps you grounded. And you could say, I'm not grounded, I don't know. You might say the opposite. What keeps you real?
The couple of things that are patterns in my day, if you like, going to the cafe in the morning and having a couple of cups of coffee with people like the people who work in the cafe are lovely people. And I just enjoy sitting there with the paper, although I hate the paper. I do read it, and I enjoy that start of the day. That gets me off to a good start. But the other thing that keeps me grounded is the grandkids, because I do quite a lot of babysitting with them and sleepovers and stuff like that with them, and that's great because you can't not be grounded.
Yep.
With
Keep
little
you
kids, you have to be. They're very real.
Keep you real.
Yeah.
Hey, are we signing off?
What else keeps you grounded, or is that kind of...
I reckon
that's
put your hat
real
on.
things.
Absolutely put the hat on, Stuart.
Having my hat on keeps me grounded.
This is your signature.
Again, for our
I love
American
it.
friends who are watching.
When I worked in government, I used to have a black Akubra. It was an Akubra Boga, and I was just known as the man with the hat. So even people who didn't know me by name knew me as the man with the hat. This is not an Akubra. It's a Thomas Cook.
Oh.
The Akubras have got very expensive because they're fur felt. This is wool felt, and
which is actually
because we've run out of rabbits in Australia. You may have heard about rabbit plagues and stuff, but we've got that pretty well controlled these days, and it's actually pretty hard to find rabbits.
And they're still making.
And they're still making rabbit fur hats in Akubra. Yeah. Okay, so there we go.
Yeah, great. Well,
never wear your hat inside, my mum used to say. But then,
there you go.
You asked me about
challenging the system.
Just pretend I have a ceiling that opens up into the sky.
Yes,
okay, we can pretend. Nobody can see it on camera.
We have good imagination.
We're looking at the sky.
Okay.
So signing out, stay fluid, stay focused, stay free, most importantly. And as we always sign out, love, love, love.
And laugh,
Keep
love,
laughing.
and then the most important thing is to remember just to breathe.
Thank you, everybody.